But no, the movie was awful. It was disjointed. It felt like it was written by committee. They were trying to juggle a handful of themes. They did them all clumsily. You got the impression the only consistent theme is that it's hard to be a woman and it's mostly man's fault. And and then I had the unique take that I flushed out more deeply in the article. But based on all the plot points, they're telling men. I don't think the writer or the director means to, but they're telling men that the only way to be happy is for one sex to completely dominate the other. So I guess if men want to be happy, we should get busy and just double down on the patriarchy. Because flipped in reverse, that was what happened in the movie.
Haman Nature, a journey in search of a peaceful and prosperous society with human nature as a guide. Led by your host, Adam Haman.
Hello, and welcome to Haman Nature. With me, as always, is my spiky partner in crime, Tyrone. How are you?
Pretty good, man.
So I'm excited. Tyrone wouldn't tell me what we were talking about today, so I'm gonna throw this right back to you. And what do we got going on?
Well, Adam, I figure you do such an awesome job with your newsletters, and we've done a few episodes talking about that. And I figured, your newsletter subscribers probably can't be sick of Oscar talk yet, can they?
Oh no! Well,
You only wrote basically a whole week's worth of newsletters on the Oscars.
well, two things. First, thank you. You're too kind. And secondly, that was only 3 posts I recall.
Oh, it felt
Just
like 30. It's like every day I was getting more Oscar talk.
in a good way, right? That's nothing but positive, right?
Well, anyway, we like to talk about cultural stuff on the show. We like to talk about politics stuff on the show. You and I are both
Yeah.
big movie buffs. The Oscars just happened. And you obviously talked about it a lot in your newsletter. Anyway, I thought it'd be fun for us to just kind of shoot the shit a little bit about Oscars and give sort of maybe our libertarian cultural artistic take on some of them,
All
maybe
right.
critique them a little bit or
All
discuss
right.
some of the themes and narratives of some of them. So I don't know, I thought it'd just be a fun conversation to have with you.
Well, to that I say, ow, ow. Quit twisting my arm. Ow. Yeah, okay.
Now you saw we're just going to talk about the best pictures, the ones that were nominated for best pictures, and you went out and saw all of them just as a thing to do in preparation for the Oscars. It was
Yeah,
something you wanted to do.
my local little casino slash movie theater, for a very steep discount, gave a little pass where you could go in a week and see every single one of them, plus the shorts, live action and animated shorts.
I love short movies. I think that they are really great storytelling forms because you have to be hyper focused on your plot
Yeah.
and your characters. Short and I write a lot of short stories, and that is a skill that not writing a short story and a novel are not the same thing. You have to be
Yep.
hyper focused, condensed, succinct, and it's a different form of storytelling. And I just love short movies for that reason. But we're talking about the big ones today. I have not seen all of them, so I'm going to rely on your judgment when we talk about a few of these. I have seen a few of them in their entirety, and I did try to watch several of them. I couldn't get through 15 minutes of some of these. I couldn't do it. They were just god awful in my opinion. All right, so here are the pictures that were nominated, or the movies that were nominated for Best Picture this year, the Oscars. We have The Zone of Interest, Poor Things, Past Lives, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, The Holdovers, Barbie, Anatomy of a Fall, and American Fiction. So let's start with the ones that at least I've kind of seen and can comment with you on. So I saw Oppenheimer in the theater. So you and I are both pretty big Christopher Nolan fans. Let's start there with a question. Where would you rank this in his library of movies?
Ooh. Well, I'd have to go for memory. It's real good. It's probably not justifiable, but my favorite picture of his is still Memento, just because
Oh,
it
100%. Nothing beats
blew me away.
Memento.
Yeah,
That's
it's
that's a top 10 movie all day long.
I
Yeah.
think the wife and I saw it in the theater 3 times in the first week.
Oh, really? Wow.
I
I
mean, we
I didn't
really, really liked it. We'd take friends.
You're
Yeah,
talking
it was
about Memento or
obnoxious.
Oppenheimer?
Memento.
Memento. Yeah, yeah.
Oppenheimer, I saw twice,
Oh, wow.
because I had to see it in the summer, and then again, it showed up in this package, so I'm like,
Oh,
"Yeah,
right.
of course I'll see it again." I love his Batman movies quite a bit, um, especially well, I don't know, both those first 2 Batman movies were amazing. Um, so Oppenheimer is definitely top 5, maybe even top 2. I'm not sure, but it's exceptional. It's very, very well done.
I agree. It's well done, well written, well acted, but I thought it was a little long. And
Okay.
this is gonna be a weird criticism of a biopic. So obviously, it's a biopic. It's about the story of Oppenheimer. The movie's called Oppenheimer, so you shouldn't be surprised when you go into the theater and you get a lot of his life story and things that happen in his personal life with his marriage and things like that. But honestly, I guess I was going into it thinking it was just going to be more about the creation of the bomb and more of the science and the military aspect and all of that kind of stuff. And and so when it went so much into the his personal life, it lost me a little bit because I'm just not really that interested in his life or what happened in his marriage. To me, I just didn't find it interesting, and I felt like the movie dragged a bit in those parts. To me, it kind of slowed down a little bit. I felt the movie was maybe like 30 minutes too long,
That's
um,
interesting.
and I didn't think they and I didn't I think they missed the mark on the relationship he had with Einstein.
Hmm.
I, they hinted at the movie there was something deeper there, but I got the feeling like there's something else going on between him and Einstein, and never felt like it got resolved or explored a bit more. So those would be my criticisms. Obviously, the music was great, the cinematography is great, the dialogue is great, the acting is great, everything's great. But I just felt like to me, parts of it weren't as interesting. I wish they had spent a little less time on his personal relationships. That's the only comment I'll make about that. What do you think?
Let me go backwards. I have no idea what uh, Oppenheimer's actual relationship with Einstein was, so I didn't know what to make of what you're talking about. Although I
You
did
know that
notice that.
scene at the lake we see a
Sure.
couple of
Yeah.
times, and he whispers in his ear. Like there's something hinting there that there's something deeper that never gets explained.
I just read that as respect because I think what that those scenes were all about was the narcissism of Robert Downey Jr.'s character, who is almost a lead. His arc. He has more of an arc in the film almost than than Oppenheimer does, and Robert Downey Jr. Won the Oscar for his portrayal. It was amazing. And I disagree. I didn't think it was boring, and I was interested in all the political intrigue and the personal stuff. But as I was watching it, I'm a guy who of a certain age. I learned a lot about the Manhattan Project, in
Sure.
school and various spots, and I watched several times Fat Man, Little Boy
Great
with
movie.
yeah, with Paul Newman and
Mhm.
that awesome guy from the A Team and Star Trek, whose name always escapes me, who played Oppenheimer.
Oh, yeah. Oh gosh, shoot.
We'll
My
find his
sister's
name.
gonna kill me because
Well,
we're Star Trek fans, but anyway.
well, he's Lieutenant Reginald Barclay. That's the important
Right,
part.
right,
But the
right,
man's
right, but I
name,
can't think of the
I can't think of his
actor's
name
name.
either.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was great, and that movie was great. But I was wondering, watching Nolan's film, uh, what would be your perception if you came into this cold and just didn't know anything about this? Because
Mm,
Nolan's storytelling is really hyper accentuated here. The way he goes back and forth all over the place and cuts into different time periods, and I love
yeah.
that. But it can be a bit much, especially if
It
you don't know this story as well as I do, as well as we do.
it was a bit much. That caught me off guard at first. when we were in the theater, I think I leaned over to my wife. I'm like, "Wait, what time period are we in?"
Yeah.
It did lose me for a couple seconds. Eventually, you get into the groove of that, and then you're fine. But at the first for 15, 20 minutes of the movie can be a little bit of jarring, and I'm okay with that. I mean, it's a it's a way to keep the viewer engaged. You keep them like wondering in a weird way. It causes a tension between the storyteller and the viewer, which is interesting. And as long as that doesn't persist, if that went the whole 3.5 hours, I
Right.
would have been forget this.
Well,
But
I definitely come down on the other side than you on this, but I get your point. It's not everyone's cup of tea, the subject matter and the style of storytelling, but I just loved it.
yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really anything to comment here from a libertarian perspective. It was just sort of a straightforward, in a way, a straightforward telling of the story. Here are the people. This is what happened, and Nolan sort of shot it in a different way, going back and forth between timelines. But there really wasn't any sort of political message to it. It was just more of this was kind of what happened, right? Sort of matter of fact.
Did you happen to see Zone of Interest?
No.
All right, well, let me pop in here then briefly. I said this in my Substack newsletter also, but Oppenheimer won Oscars for almost everything I thought it should, with a few notable exceptions, some of them being in the artistic categories that Poor Things took. But the one that, as they were reading the names, I was thinking, God, I think sound should go to Zone of Interest, because where Oppenheimer was all loudness and explosions and vibrating quantum particles or whatever the heck those things were, electrons, what Zone of Interest did in the use of sound was so subtle and so haunting. It's a story of the commandant's private residence at the right next to Auschwitz, and they call that area like the zone of interest or something. That's the reason for the title. And you never ever once is the subject of this movie Auschwitz. The subject is this domestic situation in this family, but the shots are all like you never see an overhead shot looking into the camp and all the horror and destruction and death. Anytime the camera lens is pointed in that direction, it's from a low angle, so you see the wall, just like my property wall, basically, except on the other side there's a murder camp. And before you even know what's really going on in the film, you'll hear these weird, faint pistol shots and screams, and the the sound that comes from a smokestack where people are being burned alive. And again, they never focus on that. It's this ancillary thing. I called it the banality of evil, and the bureaucracy of evil. It was so interesting the way you know what's going on and you hear it sometimes, but I don't know. I thought it was really well done. They
Wow.
deserved it.
Yeah, I don't know if I can watch that movie. Just I've been to Auschwitz. Um, it's even choking me up a little bit just remembering the visit, even though it was a long 15 years ago or so. I have never been more emotionally moved by anywhere I've been. It's absolutely haunting. I'm not sure I could make it through this movie, but
I
you would
think you should.
recommend it. It's
I
good.
think you should try. Wait until you can do it at home, so you can pause and do whatever you need to do. And I don't want to tell you anymore. But it's really, really strong, and I mean, the evils of that time period and that place and that philosophy are obvious, and we've been,
Yeah.
almost beaten over the head with them, this many
Hmm.
decades later, and to see something done in this way, and it's even more powerful, almost. Yeah, I highly recommend
Okay. Fair enough. I'll have to get the Kleenex out for that one.
it.
All right, let's move on to, well, obviously we started with Oppenheimer, which was the big winner. Just talked about zone of interest. Let's move on to Barbie. So maybe I didn't give this one a fair shake because I started watching it on a plane. but my God, I couldn't do it, Adam. I couldn't do it, man. I look, I love Ryan Gosling. My wife knows there's a list uh, of celebrities, and if Ryan Gosling ever says to me, "Hey, let's go have some fun," I'll be like, "Yep, let's do that."
That's your guy?
Uh, uh, oh, and Margot Robbie's also great. Love her. But man, I couldn't take it. It was just like a woke. It was like woke fest, whatever. I don't know. But you had a different take on it in your newsletter. So why don't you go ahead and disagree with me? I only made it about 20 minutes.
Well, first of all, I hated this movie.
I thought you said you liked it.
Oh, no. Oh,
Oh
no.
no, I thought you said it had some. Okay, maybe
It has some good parts, but I hate it.
Yeah.
I'll give them their due.
Okay.
I did think Ryan Gosling was really good in it. He deserved the nomination. I thought Robbie.
I think it's Robbie.
I think she did a really great job as an actress, and I assume most of the men who sat through this movie in the theater mostly did so because they got to look at her in very skimpy Barbie outfits for the entirety of the movie. There were a couple of good songs. It was funny in a couple of places. And that one dance number, I think it's called I Am Ken, was magnificent. But no, the movie was awful.
Mm.
It was disjointed. It felt like it was written by committee. They were trying to juggle a handful of themes. They did them all clumsily. You got the impression the only consistent theme is that it's hard to be a woman and it's mostly man's fault. And then I had the unique take that I flushed out more deeply in the article. But based on all the plot points, they're telling men. I don't think the writer or the director means to, but they're telling men that the only way to be happy is for one sex to completely dominate the other. So I guess if men want to be happy, we should
Mm.
get busy and just double down on the patriarchy. Because flipped
Hmm.
in reverse, that was what happened in the movie, with a minor caveat towards Ken that he ought to learn how to, I forget the phrase, but learn how to live on your own, or figure
Mhm.
out who you are without me, or something like that. And so no, I despise that movie.
Okay.
I thought it made a mockery of any attraction that men and women might feel towards one another. It had nothing but problems that I thought were mostly misplaced and zero solutions. So yeah, again, giving the credit that is due to those good things I
Sure.
mentioned earlier. Yeah, they did those things well, and I hated the damn movie. I hated it.
Okay. But you made it through. For the sake of the podcast, you made it through.
I only skipped out on one of these.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, let's move to one I haven't seen, but again, I'm a huge fan of this beautiful man, very talented man, Bradley Cooper in
Mm,
Maestro. So
mhm.
tell me about this one. I don't even really know what it's about.
It is about one Leonard. Oh, now I'm going to forget the guy's last name. The famous composer and symphony director Feinstein. Is that it? No. Oh
Bernstein?
dear. There you
I
go.
mean,
Bernstein.
uh,
That was the thing I learned.
oh, is
Bernstein.
because everybody says Leonard
I
Bernstein,
know,
but
but
it's Bernstein? Okay.
according to this movie,
Whatever. I mean, okay, tomato, tomato.
there were a lot of interesting things about this movie. And my wife, who's a Bradley Cooper fan, as am I, came out of this thinking this guy is the worst actor known to man.
What?
And he was nominated for Best Actor in this film.
I
And
love Bradley Cooper.
I do too.
Okay.
And the point I made to her is like, no, honey, he did a great job acting in this movie, as he always did. Unfortunately, he got a huge disservice from the director who did him dirty. And let me look and see who that is. That's one Bradley Cooper. So
Wait,
you
he
had a
directed the movie?
yes. So you had this scenario where
Oh.
he couldn't put what needed to go on the cutting room floor on the cutting room floor. So all
Ah.
the artistic hubris that you would get, like from, I don't know if
Mhm.
he's directed before or
Sure.
not, but he was
Actually, now that you said that, I think this was his directorial debut.
it if that's true, that made sense. He did a lot of really unique things. The movie itself had a lot of really unique and interesting parts. Some of it got a little bogged down. I thought the wife was quite interesting. Some of the musical stuff was quite interesting, and it should have been shorter because his performance should have been cut way down, and he might have netted that best actor performance if they had.
Yeah, as I tell people in my writing group, the storytelling is in the editing. Same thing goes
Hmm.
with movies. So when you write a story, you write 200,000 words, you cut it down to 100,000. When you film a movie, you film 300 minutes, you cut it down to 90 or 100 minutes, right?
You're exactly
Edit
right, and
editing is the key.
just to show that we mean what we say, when we record each one of these shows, it's 5 hours long. But for you, good folks, we cut it down to about 45 or 50 minutes.
Well, there it is edited, but I
I might be
uh
embellishing.
I do the editing, by the way. So if you have any complaints about that, viewers, direct them towards the porcupine. But yeah, we do, you have to edit once in a while. Sometimes there's an or an ah or some sort of weird break that like we just got to start over. But so yeah. Anyway, the storytelling's in the editing. All right, let's move on to one I have seen, The Holdovers.
Okay,
I love Paul Giamatti.
me too.
I thought this was a fine movie. I thought it was a lesser version of Dead Poet
That's
Society.
exactly what I thought, and The
Yeah.
Breakfast Club a little bit. I said to the wife
Yeah, I didn't make that connection, but sure, I could see that.
I said to the wife coming out, when she says, "What do you think?" I said, "I liked it quite a bit. I just liked it more when I saw it the first 2 times as the Breakfast
Yeah.
Club and the Dead
Mhm.
Poets Society," specifically the latter, because
Yeah.
where the Dead Poets Society is an A+, plus, this was maybe a B+.
B
plus.
minus. Yeah.
Very
It's good.
enjoyable. I
Yeah.
liked it. I thought the best supporting actress, going to, I don't know the woman's name, but who played the
Mm. Mhm.
woman who lost her son in Vietnam
Yep.
and was
That
the
was
cook
great.
for the
That
school. I thought she did a great job.
that was the best. That was the best character in the film.
Yeah,
And the emotional point when they had the
yeah,
funeral and then the two of them, they have sort of this weird friendship where they just
yeah,
sort of watch TV and get drunk together and it's pretty it's beautiful in its loneliness in a way, but
yeah.
um I don't know why this was nominated for a best picture though. Like there was nothing extraordinary about it to me. The story was average, the cinematography was okay, what you would expect. I mean, it was a good movie, but why is this in the best picture category? I'm
Well,
not
that one
sure.
surprised me, but not as much as some others.
Well, at
Yeah,
least The Holdovers has a plot and a story that you can make sense of. Unlike Poor Things, which is terrible. Sorry, Adam. I know you have a completely different view of this because you suffered through the whole damn thing.
I did.
I couldn't make it 10 minutes. This was a monstrosity.
It was a
So,
monstrosity. That's technically true.
uh it
Well,
was terrible.
maybe this is a case of lowered expectations or something, but I sort I prefer to go see movies not knowing what they're going to be about at all. If I can
Sure.
avoid seeing the trailer, all the better.
I'm the same way, yeah.
But I did know that this had a, a very bizarre Frankenstein slash pedophilia aspect to it,
Yeah,
and
I
so
can't
I
deal with
thought,
that.
okay, well, that's ridiculous. This is woke nonsense. What are you doing? The pendulum and politics thing. The left has gone too far. This is insane. What a travesty. But gosh darn it, this was an interesting film, and Emma Stone
It
deserved to
was
win
interesting.
best actress for it. And the plot thing, the device is this Frankenstein person was given the recently suicided body of a woman that was pregnant, and the woman couldn't be saved, but the fetus was alive, so he transplanted the fetus's brain into the woman's body, and then we get to see her develop in a very accelerated and bizarre fashion. And as this creation does weird sexual things like explore her own sexuality and get hit upon by a guy who doesn't know her nature, the Ruffalo character, who also, as much as I don't like that guy's politics, he's a good actor and he did a really good
Great
job in this
actor.
film. He did really, really well. And between that, and the fact that it was shot so artistically beautifully, the makeup, the costumes, the bizarre cinematography that reminded me of that Robin Williams film, What Dreams May Come,
Oh god, I love that movie.
where
Oh lord, that is such a good
all the
movie.
landscape sort of looks like it's coming from
Mhm.
a painting. It
Mhm.
was very similar, it reminded me of that, and this bizarre creature ends up, ruling the roost, somehow she develops into a formidable being, and, I don't know, I mean, I didn't love the movie, but I thought it was really interesting.
It at least had some originality to it, right?
Very original, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, and again, maybe it's that, reversed expectations because I did expect to just be, "What are you doing, you twisted, sick freaks?" But it was interesting.
There's a couple of things that I just can't handle from an emotional perspective. One, if there's like a rape scene
Yeah.
in a movie, or like you mentioned, pedophilia. I can't. I just might be the greatest movie on earth, but I can't do it.
Well, it wasn't the
Um,
greatest movie on earth, and there was a lot of soft porn,
yeah,
scenes,
and
and so, yeah, I can see why people would hate it. I don't blame blame 'em at all.
I don't like sex scenes in movies to begin with. Like, why does every damn Tom Cruise movie have to be there's some woman that he's got to have sex with? Like, look, dude, look, if I want to see sex, I know where to go. There's a thing called the
But here's
internet.
the thing,
Can we just
I
stick to the plot?
but dude, I agree with you 100% in a traditional movie. I think the sex scene is immature and complete waste of celluloid. Yes, we get it. These people love each other. But in this movie, it was watching her face during these scenes that was so amazing because of what she is and the transactional nature. She turns herself into a prostitute at some point and takes it on as almost a social studies project. I don't know, man. It's really interesting because in this movie, it's not gratuitous in the slightest.
Okay,
You might say that the theme of the movie has no artistic merit, and okay, maybe it
sure.
doesn't. But every sex scene advanced the thematic elements as well as whatever else they were doing.
Maybe it was just a little too artsy fartsy for me.
It definitely was
Uh,
that. If that's
and
not
I
your thing, yeah.
and I don't mean that necessarily as a criticism, even though I sort of derogatorily called it that. I love when directors experiment with lenses or angles or whatever and do something unique and different. Obviously, we just talked about Christopher Nolan. He's known for that kind of stuff. Go back to Citizen Kane. You know, the real hero of Citizen Kane was his cinematographer who invented deep focus, which is
Yeah.
still used today.
Yeah.
That's how innovative it was. So things like that, even though I don't think the story of Citizen Kane is all that interesting or great. Oh, twist at the end, it's a sled. Uh, it was groundbreaking in a lot of ways. So you can appreciate it on the merits of that. Let me ask you this one question. Since I did not finish the full movie, and obviously I didn't give it a fair shake by not doing that, we recently recorded an episode where we were talking about story and narratives and things like that, and and I didn't get the sense that this movie had a plot. Like, so in that episode, we were talking about there's a protagonist or hero, anti-hero, has a goal, has to overcome an obstacle, achieve the goal, etc. Did this movie have kind of that kind
Of
of a plot,
course.
or was it just weird?
Of course.
It did. It did
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
have at least a plot you could follow.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right.
I
Well,
mean, it's the ultimate coming of age movie for a very, very strange, impossible to exist creature. A coming of age story for a centaur, if those existed or something.
now
And
that would be a movie I'd like to see. That'd be cool.
and she triumphs over all sorts of, wickedness, both familiar
Okay.
to us and not familiar. It would have been an abomination if it won Best Picture, but no, it was interesting.
Okay.
It
Okay.
was not, however, my second. I have a clear second favorite.
All
I
right.
have a
Which one
third
was that?
favorite. My
What
clear
was your
second
second?
was American Fiction.
Okay.
Did you see it?
No, I haven't seen any piece of it, but I definitely wanna see this one for
All
sure,
right.
yeah.
Well, I don't know if I wanna spoil it for you.
No, it's okay.
Well, what made this great, um, it's it's a slapback, an artistic pushback against the woke racist nonsense of
Yeah.
basically the white liberal left.
Mhm.
And I
I love
loved
that.
that the hero is a very smart, very talented African American author who hates this wokeism,
Love it.
and he is schooled in really traditional Western American virtues. You know, that's his ethos. And and then he struggles writing these books that are, we assume, great, but unappreciated in this modern woke world, until he writes some absolute piece of garbage in about 2 hours, getting drunk. That's, just this banal urban
Yep.
garbage, and it's
Sure.
just lapped up by the
Love it.
publishers and the
Love
press.
it. That's fantastic.
And
I gotta
watching
see
the
this.
yeah, and the acting, I'm not surprised that Cillian Murphy won Best Actor. He
Mm.
deserved it. But my second, I would not have been unhappy. I think his name's Jeffrey Wright. And similar to the Zone of Interest with the sound, I thought he was really, really good in his subtlety, in his underperformance. Um, he's not exactly a stoic, but he has a quiet rage and cynicism that I thought he just knocked out of the park. So yeah, that was my second favorite.
Well, I'm gonna watch this movie right away. Um, I if the way you're describing it, that gives me a little bit of hope because I think actually the point of your what you wrote about in your newsletter was that the state of movies had gotten so bad and almost unwatchable in the last decade that you were surprised at how many good movies, or at least seemingly better movies than we've seen before, have were in this year's crop of Best Picture nominees.
Yeah, I think it's noticeable. I think the way I phrased it is that, obviously Hollywood is still woke, but I think the crest, the wave has peaked and crested, and we're on the backside of it. Because we had better non-woke movies nominated. Not perfect in my estimation, but way better than in the last 10 years or so. And the ones that were nominated for some horrific identitarian woke reasons, they got snubbed. And I liked that. My least favorite movie we'll get to probably at the end here, but that one got absolutely snubbed, and I was thrilled by that.
Okay. I think I think also we're seeing some things to kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent, go back to the politics a little bit, but I think we're seeing I think we're seeing the left just being shocked by the absolute rejection of this wokest crap in the African American culture in America specifically. You're seeing a lot of
No one
that
likes to be treated
demographic.
like a child. No one likes to be infantilized and treated like, I mean, it's so pedantic what what woke left does to these people.
Yeah. Plus, you know, it's really, there's a certain type of person that gets a female studies degree out of college with their big glasses that they like to wear these days, and probably still wearing a mask. Like, I think the left has overplayed their hand,
Oh, of
and
course. Yeah.
the people are quote unquote waking up anyway. So the point I'm trying to make is, what did Aristotle say? Um, the the purpose or the greatness of fiction is to portray a world not as it is, but as it could be. And a lot of the reason why libertarian authors go to science fiction is because you can just invent a world. Oh, I'm not criticizing our government or our real world. It's this fictitious space federation, but really it's just a metaphor, an analogy that you can cloak in, right? So I
Yeah.
think I think if there's a criticism of the left, it's got to come from the traditional left, which traditionally African Americans would be included in that. So, in a way, comedians like Dave Chappelle and other comedians can better criticize the cultural left than say you or I could. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm glad to see something like this.
as we've spoken of before, the things that move culture and the best criticisms of culture come from those I, characteristics of the left: the creativity, the openness. It's not conservative values that gives you good art. So, and since art is the best critic, that's naturally supposed to come from the left. The rigidity of an oppressive culture is typically regarded as right wing, and the
Mhm.
counterbalancing respect for the individual and rejection of tyranny, that's tends to be left wing.
Mm.
And yeah, obviously, if it was up to the Daily Wire or whatever to give us the art that was going to fight back against the woke left, it would we would just lose.
Right.
Wouldn't happen.
That's right. No, it's
So
a great point.
let me give a very brief recommendation to I think my third favorite of these 10 films, Anatomy of a Fall. I don't want to say too much about it, except it's mostly in French, with a
Okay.
little bit of English and a teeny tiny bit of German. Interestingly, the lead actress was nominated for Best Actress, and she deserved it. And she was also the lead in Zone of Interest, which I did not know until I watched the Oscars, which
Huh.
is usually a good sign of a very, very good actress. And she was. And it's just a really, really interesting movie, the kind that maybe is common in Europe, but America used to make movies like this a long, long time ago, and that's all I want to say about it. Except it was
Great.
fascinating.
Okay. I haven't seen it, but I am not afraid of subtitles. Let's see. Another one I hadn't seen is Past Lives. Any comment on that?
Um, I hated it.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I thought the description of the synopsis of the plot sounded interesting.
I don't know what the synopsis was. It's a foreign language film
Yep.
mostly. These people are Korean, I believe.
Yes. Mm.
Um, and it is the past lives is a reference to a word in Korean about people whose lives are entangled
Right.
on a quantum level, although they wouldn't use that term, through reincarnation. And okay, that's an interesting story. And so it's this boy and a girl who knew each other growing up, and then the girl leaves Korea for Canada and then New York to pursue whatever her family wanted for her. And she's a writer, blah, blah, blah. He's a traditional Korean, he stays there, and it's their interactions over the years. Okay, whatever. But what I despised about it was the incredibly weak portrayal. There's only two men in the thing and one woman, basically, and the men are just wretches, just weak, pathetic, awful things, and it just it bothered me to see. It just bothered me to see them as character portrayals.
Mm.
And the chick was kind of monstrous to at least one of the men in the relationship, and there was no indication by writer or director that this was in any way a bad thing. So I just thought, I don't know, maybe it's just a reflexive, defensive posture for my sex, but I did not like what was being shown on the screen to me.
Hmm. Okay.
Hated it. Hated it.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up with the one I think we're gonna disagree most about. Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, as I recall, you stated that you really enjoyed this movie. I could not make it through 15 minutes. And I love Leonardo DiCaprio as an actor. I think he's amazing. And it wasn't his acting. Just the story was god awful. I'm sorry. If you you got 15 minutes for me, and if you can't do it, I'm out. So
Well,
I hated it.
this movie is 3.5 hours long. I suffered through an hour of it before leaving the theater. And the wife and I, when I finally turned to her and said, "This is awful," she said to me, "Oh, thank God." And we left, and both of us were just trying to be polite to the other, because it's Scorsese, he's supposed to be great, we both like Leonardo DiCaprio, this is supposed to be great, but I wanted to leave after the first 5 minutes. Um, I mentioned earlier that someone needed to tell Bradley Cooper, that you need to cut some of these scenes. Well, something is happening with, Scorsese where no one is
Yeah.
apparently able to tell him no, and I thought this
No.
was just A, boring, B, painful to look at, and the most woke pile of garbage that I've
So
ever
woke.
seen. Um, I should shut up because I didn't see the last 2.5 hours, but our friend stayed, and we asked her, "Did that thing ever get any better?" And she goes, "Oh, no, not at all." And the groveling, waste of celluloid that was given to this Native American tribe, the Osage, I think it was.
Mhm.
So many of those scenes were just so unnecessary, and they even nominated one of these things for best song and played it during the Academy Awards, and I could not find rhythm or melody, and I just thought, I'm looking at the people in the audience sort of nodding and pretending to enjoy it, and I did not believe them. This woman was nominated for Best Actress, and I did not get it. I did not think there was anything going on there in terms of expression, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it all turned around in the last 2.5 hours. I'm speaking out of ignorance, and I admit it, but I despise this movie, what little I saw of it.
Okay. I thought the acting by the female actress was good, but again, I didn't stick around much for the movie. Yeah.
I mean, Jennifer and I made a pact. We said when it got to streaming and we could see it for free and pause and pause for pee breaks and to shake it out, we'd go ahead and watch the rest of it just to see if it was just us, if we're crazy. But no, I did not like it.
Now, it's my understanding this is based on a true story, right?
True story. Yeah, some
Yeah.
atrocity
So
occurred. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, as libertarians, we're all for,
Well, I know who's on the right side here and who the
yeah,
villains are for sure. I
yeah,
thought it was bad art. It was bad
yeah,
filmmaking. You can
yeah,
tell the story in a not boring way.
yeah. Like what happened to Native Americans and is a tragedy,
Of
and that
course,
story can
yeah.
be told a hundred times. Tell the damn story.
They
Like
managed to take an actor I am very fond of, again, not for his politics, but Leonardo DiCaprio has been in a lot of movies I liked quite a bit, and they made him unwatchable.
yeah.
It was just painful every second he was on screen. Ugh.
The problem when you elevate a culture or a group of people or whatever to um godlike status in a way, and what I mean by that is they're perfect. They can never do anything wrong. um it, there's nothing interesting about that. Like you yes uh I don't know what I'm trying to say. I kind of
Well, it
lost my
comes
train of
off
thought.
as
I'll
very,
edit that
very
out.
it the problem with it is that it comes off as extremely fake, as disingenuous.
Yeah, it comes
And
off as fake.
yeah, and
There's
admittedly,
no way these
obviously,
people were like this.
of
There's no
course not.
way. They're
And
human
there's no way
beings.
that song is the best song of anything. So when you act like this, it comes off as ringing so false. I would consider it an insult if I were from this tribe or whatever. And it sure makes for terrible art, uh, in my opinion. Admittedly, I could only suffer through the first hour, but we had thieving and murdering going on, and I was just bored. It was just boring.
Yeah, it's like we talk about to reference another episode we did about white hats, black hats. Um, there's no generally no side is pure in any conflict, but even if you have a clear good guy, bad guy, which obviously you have in this story,
Sure.
make the good guys at least interesting. Just don't make them perfect. It's like the same criticism I have with Avatar. It's like, oh, okay, the blue people can never be wrong. They can never do anything bad. They're all just perfect. That's so boring. It's so boring. I don't
They called the MacGuffin in that film unobtainium.
know.
How lazy is that?
It's
How lazy is
so
that?
bad. It's so bad. Unobtainium. What? Are you kidding me? Oh my lord. You know what you really want in a movie? You want a good guy that you want to root for, but you also kind of root against a little bit too at times.
Or at least,
Um,
in his cadre, some supporting actors who were shades of gray,
yeah.
some complexity. But again, to get back to the white pill moment, these films I despise didn't do very well. Especially, this Killers of the Flower Moon got snubbed, if I recall correctly, and
Oh, okay.
that was appropriate. I was pleased with every place that an Oscar was bestowed, and that hasn't happened in a long time.
All right, Adam. So the time we're recording this, March Madness has just kicked off. So I
Yay!
thought, I thought we could put our own little twist on it, as Nigel Tufnell would say, put his own little twist on it, and do our sort of libertarian take on a March Madness bracket style competition. All right.
Oh, this sounds like a game. Are we gonna play a game?
All right. So here's how it's going to work. Over the course of several episodes, we're going to go through different categories and match up competitors, I'll call them. And I'm going to throw some things at you and have you decide who the winner of each bracket is. Once we get through the first round, we're going to flip it over to our social media pages and ask our listeners to vote going forward
Oh,
on
cool.
who they think should advance to the final round. Makes sense?
It
All right.
does. I have two things to say.
All right.
First, yay, great idea. And second, thank heavens this doesn't actually have anything to do with college basketball, of which I know nothing.
All right. So we're calling this First to Ruin the World.
This is glorious.
And I've broken out the conferences into 4 conferences. We've got the culture conference, the politics, the conspiracy conference, and the weed parade. Because
You have
potpourri,
yeah,
potpourri.
Popper,
Come on.
you've outdone yourself. I didn't even see those other two brackets at the bottom there. I love this.
All right. So to begin this game, Adam, we're gonna have a head-to-head matchup, one from each category. So today we're gonna do one from culture, one from politics, one from conspiracy, one from weed potpourri, or whatever the hell I'm calling it. And we're gonna debate which of these two people or things or whatever it may be. Look, it's gonna be a surprise to you. You don't
So
know what's coming.
if I understand the bracket system, first in these early rounds, it's culture versus culture. Weed puree. Okay. No,
That's
this is
exactly
great.
right. That's
This is
exactly
fun.
right.
What have
So we're
you
going to do one from each bracket or one from each conference, and then eventually we'll narrow it down. Now, what we've been talking about is we see a lot of negative things happen in the world. We keep talking, what's going to end the world first? World war, cultural politics, identitarianism, whatever weird conspiracy theory. There's so many things that could ruin the world. We're gonna try to figure out through this bracket playoff system which of these things is gonna be the first to do it.
the
Okay,
first to do
so,
it? The
so
first
we got a
time.
lot of contenders. All right, so let's figure out who's gonna ruin the world first. All right, so up first we have the culture conference, the Hoff versus Tay Tay. All right, Adam. In the culture the culture conference, which of these cultural icons have the best chance of ruining the world first?
Well, what a matchup. I mean, on the surface, you'd think like it couldn't be Hasselhoff because, he's so whatever back then and she's so influential now. But I don't know. The Hoff has got a slow burn. He's still with us.
Come on, man. The Hoff is awesome.
Yeah, I know. And what was his viral video eating that cheeseburger just loaded on the floor? And is he still huge in Germany as a
I
pop
would
star?
imagine so. Isn't that like where he's a god like status or something?
All right.
Now
Well,
remember, if it was if I was going to choose, I'd be like, well, the Hoff is going to save the world, just like he saved all those people on Baywatch. So he wouldn't ruin the world, but
And all those people he saved on Knight Rider.
oh
He's in
yeah,
Knight
well, of
Rider,
course,
right?
duh. Well, Kit did the real work. Come on.
Someone had to sit in that seat.
And Taylor Swift, oh my God, my sister-in-law is going to hate me. She is the biggest Taylor Swift fan on the planet. I think she's immensely talented, but these Swifties might just ruin the world. I don't know, Adam. It's a tough choice. The Hoff or Tay Tay. What are you gonna pick? Come on, man. This
All
is
right.
a lot.
I
Lot of
do
things are on the line here.
I do have a choice. I think she's a talented woman, and I don't put any stock into the Q related myth that she's a CIA operative designed to support Joe Biden and push the vax through her affiliation with Travis Kelsey. I don't put much stock in any of that at all. But I'm going to choose her to be the destroyer of the world over the Hoff because although I've told Spotify this several times, when I get my recommended listening queue that is populated by the AI, she just keeps sneaking in there. And
Yep.
what the hell's that about?
I don't know,
It's an
man.
it's an insidious mind virus, and gosh darn it, those tunes they're catchy, and I don't want to hear those. So yeah, I'm gonna pick Taylor.
Plus, I purposely picked this older picture of her when she had this curly hair and a different sort of vibe going on when she was still country. She looks completely different now, right? With the straightened hair look
Well,
and
look, buddy, you brought it up. Are we going to discuss why you chose the bikini hammock there for young David?
the banana hammock.
Yeah, the banana
Come
hammock.
on, man. It's the Hoff in his purest form. He's got the Knight Rider jacket on. And he's like, I'm ready for business. I'm ready to solve this. He's like, Kit, hit the turbo boost. Let's go.
Is he standing behind a Japanese flag
I
or
don't
something
know
like that? What is
that
that?
is. I have no clue.
All right, that was awesome.
All right. All right. So the winner of round one in the cultural conference is Taylor Swift. All right. Good job, Tay Tay. Nice job. All right. Next up in the politics conference, we've got Jerome Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, and Janet Yellen, secretary of casinos. Oh, I'm sorry, the Treasury.
Where did you find that picture?
All right, Adam. Which of these two people are most likely to ruin the world first?
All right, I'm going to be a little bit counter intuitive here. Powell is currently our Fed chair, right?
That's correct.
All right, well, you'd think it'd be obvious, then it'd be him, but I am not going to pick him because although he is currently at the head of the beast, which is very ruinous and could kill us all at any moment, is certainly negatively impacting the lives of every human on the planet who is not got their snout in the trough. I do believe Yellen was worse and that her policies have a lingering effect because her noxious whiffish odorous whiff is still present in the Fed. So I'm going to pick the plus. Plus, you pushed me over the edge with that photo. That is just perfect. Grinning like an idiot, yanking on the one-armed bandit, and just
Mhm.
cackling her way to our society's destruction. I vote for Janet Yellen.
Congratulations. That is the correct answer. I don't know if you ever listened to Tom Luongo. He's
I
a
do.
financial analyst, runs the Gold Goats and Guns podcast and newsletter. He has this interesting theory
He
that
does.
look, he's a libertarian like us. He's not pro Federal Reserve by any means, but he does have this theory that um, forget that we're against the Federal Reserve. The fact is, the Federal Reserve exists. It's a thing. We have to deal with it. His theory is that Jerome Powell is at least a patriot, and he is trying to do the right thing and fight the globalists. Which, according to Tom Luongo's theory, Janet Yellen's part of the sort of what he would call the Davos crowd, trying to uh, 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 initiate or bring to bear the WEF's globalist outlook for everybody, and that he's really trying to fight the good fight to save the American economy as best he can. So
Yeah, we'll
while
link
you and I are
to
both, what's that?
w-
Good.
we'll link to one of Tom's posts that
Yeah, I
demonstrates
think
this.
that's a good idea.
And I can neither uh, support or argue against his theory, but it's very interesting. It's very old. It goes back to the conflict between old Europe and this new upstart, and we're the
Yep.
new upstart. And yeah, I definitely think his theory should be grappled with because I can't rule it out. And
Yeah.
if it's true, we're involved in a very old game, and most of the populace doesn't look at the world in the frame that that people like uh, well, the central banks of Europe and
That's right.
Klaus Schwab and the WAF and et cetera. And if Luongo was right and Powell is using our evil beast to defend us against theirs, that's an interesting idea.
Yep.
I don't know what to make of it, but it's interesting. So yeah,
It
give me cackling yelling.
it's very interesting, and that exact theme or talking point or theory rolls right into the next conference, conspiracy conference, MI6 or CIA?
Hmm. Well, I might
Which
not
of
be considering
these?
all the factors, but I detest the CIA way more than MI6. Maybe it's just those cute Bond movies, but or maybe it's the fact that the evil closer to my house, I'm always going to detest more than the one across the Atlantic, and maybe it's just because this one's bigger and therefore more dangerous. So yeah, give me the CIA.
All right, all right. I could have gone either way on this. Again, sort of what we were just talking about. Man, has this globalist thing been going on since the Bank of England was initiated or started in the late 1600s? And really, they've still been in charge from behind the scenes. And is MI6 pulling a lot of the strings? Is the CIA? Who knows? I think either answer would have been just fine. But I think I'm with you. Let's move the CIA forward in the bracket. Go America! Come on,
Yay!
you got
We
it. All right. And now our final bracket for this show, our final matchup for today's show, is going
I'm
to
so
be
excited.
our final conference category, the weed pourri category. Which of these two things will ruin the world first? Saved by the Bell or Skynet?
Would you like to make a case for Saved by the Bell? Because I have to admit, I don't know this show.
What?
I'm
You
one of
don't
the
know
very
Saved by
few.
the Bell?
I know what it is from reference, but I've never seen a single episode. I was busy trying to make the rent at playing Omaha or Seven Card Stud or something.
All right. In that case, I'm going to make the decision. We're going with Saved by the Bell
No,
here.
we're not.
Yes.
You haven't even made a case. We're going with Skynet.
Yeah, but Skynet's not real. Saved by the
Wow.
Bell is like every high school in the
Wow.
90s, and like
You
that's
just
that's the generation that's in power now.
You just trumped me. So this isn't AI in general. This is a fictional character.
Well, I don't know. I mean, however you want to interpret it,
Look,
you could say I did.
we're going with Skynet until you tell me your deep-seated
All
hatred
right.
and fear
All
of
right.
Saved by the Bell because I don't understand.
All right, I might have to come back on that one and create a loser bracket, but we'll see. Well, anyway, that was our fun little game. We're gonna do that for our next few series to narrow it down to the Sweet 16 or Elite Eight or whatever, and then at that point, we're gonna turn voting over to our viewers. We're gonna put some polls up. You can vote and play along with us and have a little fun. So I hope you all enjoy that. Anyway, Adam, I think it's time we wrap this episode up. Any final words?
Thank you for listening and watching, and please go visit hamannature.substack.com for more good stuff, a lot of it written. And if you join as a paid subscriber, you will get access to bonus portions of the interviews that I am doing. Some of these are coming out great. Really, really interesting, fun stuff. And follow the show at Haman Nature. And my personal account on the X Twitter is at Rerazer, Rerazer. And check out my other podcast with Brian O'Leary called Natural Order, available everywhere pods are casted. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.